After declining to join the HOA, my neighbor publicly shamed me. A week later, my car was set on fire in my driveway. I ran out screaming as he stood watching from across the street. "You brought this on yourself," he said. My son cried in my arms. Later that night, I found a letter under my door that read, "I never wanted to fight anybody. I'm just a regular guy. I work hard, keep my head down, and take care of my kid. That's all I care about. I thought buying a house would give us peace, safety, a real future. That dream died the day I met Clint Raleigh. Let me start from the beginning. I'd lived in a small second-floor apartment in Camden, New Jersey, for almost 2 decades. Not the nicest area, but it was what I could afford. I'm a forklift operator for a warehouse on the edge of the city. I clock in, I move boxes, I go home. Nothing fancy. But I saved. Every extra dollar I had went into a separate account. I didn't touch it unless Kyle needed something. Kyle's my son. He's 9. Bright kid, big eyes, always asking questions. Never knew his mom. She walked out when he was 3 and never looked back. One minute she was making breakfast, the next she said she needed to grab milk. Never came home. No calls. No notes. So it's been just the 2 of us. Me and Kyle. We make it work. After years of scraping, I found a little ranch house in Deptford. Nothing special, but it had a yard and a porch and 2 bedrooms. It was older and a bit beat up, but it was ours. And I was proud of it. We moved in during early March. Trees were still bare. Cold wind in the mornings. I remember Kyle jumping on the porch like it was a trampoline. He kept saying, "This is our house, right?" And I'd nod, trying not to cry in front of him. 3 days after we got there, while I was out front trying to reattach a crooked gutter, this guy walks up. Tan like he lived in a tanning bed. Polo shirt tucked into khakis. Hair combed back like he was frozen in 1996. Had this stiff smile like it hurt him to be polite. "I'm Clint Raleigh, president of the Maple Hollow HOA. Welcome to the neighborhood." I wiped my hands on my jeans and shook his hand. "Thanks. I'm Nate. Just moved in with my son." He handed me a stack of papers. "This explains the HOA rules. Monthly dues are $125. You can send checks or sign up for autopay. We take pride in keeping the neighborhood clean and consistent." I looked through the pages. Grass height regulations. House paint restrictions. Garbage bin placement. Even rules about what kind of curtains were allowed facing the street. "Is this optional?" I asked. He tilted his head. "Excuse me? I mean the HOA. Can I just not join?" He paused. The smile cracked for a second. "Well, technically, membership is voluntary for certain homes, including yours. But we expect everyone to participate. It's about community." "Then I'm out," I said. "Don't take it personal. I just don't want anyone telling me what color to paint my door." His smile vanished completely. He looked down at the papers, then back up at me. "Most people here understand the value of unity. I hope you'll reconsider." I shook my head. "I won't." He turned and walked off without another word. That's when everything started. 2 days later, my trash can vanished. I figured maybe the wind rolled it down the street. Replaced it. A week after that, I came home to find my fence tagged in red spray paint. Just one word. Ugly. I painted over it. No point in calling the cops. Next, my mailbox was smashed in. Then someone egged my house. One night I heard something on the roof. It was 2 teenagers, running off when I opened the door. Kyle came home crying after school. Said some kids called him the garbage kid, and said their parents told them to stay away from him. I kept telling myself it was just kids being cruel. That it would pass. But every time I looked outside, I'd see Clint talking with neighbors. They'd glance my way, whispering. Laughing. I didn't say a word. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. Then came the night my car burned. It was a Saturday. Kyle and I had just finished watching The Iron Giant. He loves old cartoons. I was cleaning up the dishes when I heard a loud boom. It sounded like a gunshot or an explosion. I ran to the front window and saw the flames. My Ford Escape was on fire. I sprinted outside, screaming. I could feel the heat from the porch. The car was already lost. Flames shot 10 feet in the air. I heard glass shatter. Kyle ran out behind me, crying, clinging to my waist. And then I saw him. Clint Raleigh. Standing across the street on his lawn. Arms folded. Not blinking. Just watching the fire like it was a TV show. We locked eyes. He didn't yell. Didn't flinch. He just said one sentence. "You brought this on yourself." I swear to God, I almost ran across the street and beat him to death. But Kyle was still holding on to me, crying. So I held it in. The fire department came. Cops showed up after. They asked questions. No one saw anything. No security footage. The car was a total loss. I gave them Clint's name. Said I thought he might be involved. They made notes. That's all they did. No follow-up. Insurance covered part of the loss, but I had to eat a good chunk of it. I missed 2 days of work trying to deal with everything. My boss wasn't happy. Kyle kept asking if we were moving. I told him no. But something inside me changed that night. I stopped being afraid. That night, around midnight, I heard something at the door. Like paper sliding on wood. I opened it. There was a plain white envelope on the doormat. No address. No name. Inside was a printed letter. "Next time it won't be your car. Join or leave. Final warning." I sat down at the kitchen table and read it over and over again. Then I folded it up, put it in the drawer next to my flashlight, and started making a list. Because I knew what I had to do now. This wasn't about a car. Or some fake HOA rules. This was about control. And Clint needed to learn what it feels like to lose it. The next morning, I made some calls. First to a friend from high school, Daryl, who worked as a private investigator out of Cherry Hill. We weren't close, but we stayed in touch over the years. I told him everything: Clint, the HOA threats, the fire, the letter. He didn't even hesitate. "Let me dig around. Give me a week," he said. Second, I called a local contractor I found online. Told him I needed security cameras installed, front, back, sides, full coverage. Paid extra to get them up same day. Kyle helped hold the ladder while the guy worked. "I'm not scared," Kyle told me, but his voice was shaky. I ruffled his hair and told him, "I got us." Third, I bought a dash cam for the new used car I picked up. Old Honda Civic, loud engine, but it ran. After that, I started watching Clint. He had a routine. Left every morning at 7:35 in a shiny black BMW. Came home around 6. Worked out in his garage gym. Watered his lawn like a psycho every evening at 7:15. Waved at everyone. Smiled for the old ladies. I learned his dog's name, Cooper. Little white mutt. Yappy. He let it out into the backyard every morning. Left it out there for hours. I also learned something else. Clint wasn't just the HOA president. He was the HOA. The entire thing was unofficial. No legal charter. No city registration. Just a bunch of papers he made up and convinced people to follow. I asked a neighbor named Donna, an older woman 3 doors down, about it one day while she was gardening. "Oh honey," she said, "Clint made that whole thing up. But everyone just goes along with it because it's easier. So there's no real HOA?" She leaned closer, whispering. "Not legally. But he makes life hard if you don't play nice." That explained a lot. I started collecting everything. I saved the note. Took photos of the burned car. Backed up the camera footage every night. Anything that could help. Then, exactly 1 week after the fire, Daryl called. "You're gonna want to sit down," he said. Clint had a record. Not in Jersey, but in Pennsylvania. 5 years back, he was arrested for fraud. Used to work in real estate. Got busted falsifying loan documents for fake buyers. Got a slap on the wrist, some community service, and somehow still kept selling houses under a different business name. But that wasn't all. 2 years ago, a similar fire happened in a neighborhood outside Reading. House was fine, but the owner's car? Total loss. Guy had refused to join an HOA Clint had set up in that neighborhood too. Nothing was ever proven. No charges filed. But the pattern was the same. "You want me to keep digging?" Darryl asked. "No," I said. "I know enough." I was done playing defense. It was time to push back. The first thing I did was print out copies of everything I had: Clint's fake HOA documents, pictures of my car, screenshots of Clint watching from across the street during the fire, zoomed in from my new cameras, and Darryl's report. I slipped the packets into 10 envelopes. Then, at 3 a.m., I went house to house up and down the street and left them in people's mailboxes. No name. No return address. Just truth. The next day, I sat on my porch with my coffee and waited. By noon, people were walking past Clint's house without waving. One guy, Bill from the corner, flipped him off when he drove by. By evening, someone had torn up the sign that said, "Proud member of Maple Hollow HOA," in front of Clint's lawn. That was Phase 1. Phase 2 started the next week, when I filed an anonymous complaint to the township. Clint had built an illegal deck extension in his backyard. No permit. I sent in drone photos I paid some teenager to take with his drone. The township sent an inspector. Clint was hit with a fine and ordered to tear it down. Then I called animal control. Cooper, the little dog, barked all day. I recorded the noise. Submitted it. 2 warnings in 1 week. Then I filed a report with the IRS under his old business name. Told them about the fake HOA dues. Gave details. Dates. Numbers. Clint might have thought he was clever, but the feds don't like tax cheats. Things got worse for him fast. By mid-April, half the neighborhood stopped talking to him. Donna from down the street told me people were holding their own meetings, without Clint. Talking about getting a real HOA in place, and banning him from it. His little kingdom was falling. But I wasn't done. One night, I walked out to my driveway and found another note stuck under my wiper. This time it said, "You think you're clever. You're not. This isn't over." No envelope. Just tape there with electrical tape. I smiled. Because he was right. It wasn't over. It was just starting. The note on my windshield didn't scare me. It made me careful. After that, I changed up my routines. Took different routes to work. Left at odd hours. Put up another camera pointing directly at the street. One hidden in the tree, watching Clint's driveway. And then something strange started happening. I noticed a white Ford truck parked a few houses down. Didn't belong to anyone on the street. I asked around, nobody knew it. The driver was always inside. Sitting. Watching. Sometimes on his phone. Sometimes not. One morning, I walked up to it with a coffee in my hand. The window was down an inch. "Need something?" I asked. The guy looked up, maybe late 30s, beard, sunglasses, tight haircut. Military type. He didn't answer. Just rolled the window up and drove off. That's when I realized Clint had eyes on me. He wasn't alone in this. I started getting followed. Once at the grocery store. Another time when I was pumping gas. Same guy. Then a different one, short and stocky, always wearing a hoodie. I'd circle the block and they'd keep pace. One night, Kyle and I came out of the diner, and our tires had been slashed. Both rears. Stranded. Kyle cried. I hugged him and said it was just bad luck. But it wasn't. It was a message. So I called Darryl again. "This guy has friends," I told him. Real ones. Not just nosy neighbors. Daryl said he'd look deeper. He was worried. Told me to be careful. Then, 2 nights later, the rail break happened. Kyle had gone to bed. I was watching old TV on mute when I got an alert on my phone, motion detected, side yard camera. I pulled up the feed. There was someone in my yard. Tall. Hoodie up. Moving slow along the fence line. I hit record. Then I stepped out with a bat. The figure saw me and ran, but not fast enough. My side camera caught a clear view of his face as he looked back. It was the teenager from 2 houses down. Jeremy Raleigh. Clint's son. I called the cops. When they showed up, I gave them the footage. They hesitated. Said it could have been nothing, just a kid walking through the yard. I wasn't having it. I want a report filed. That's trespassing. You see the fence? That's not a walkway. They filed it. Reluctantly. But the next morning, I woke up to a new horror. Every one of Kyle's soccer balls in the yard, slashed. His bike, spray-painted freak house across the seat. And my front porch, eggshells and yolks smeared across the siding. Kyle saw it all before I could stop him. He just stood there, shaking. I called the cops again. This time they told me there wasn't much they could do. Said there was no proof Jeremy did it. Said I should install more lights. I wanted to scream. Instead, I cleaned it up. Quietly. But my hands were clenched the whole time. That day, I didn't go to work. I drove to Jeremy's school. Sat in the lot until the kids started coming out. I waited until I saw him. He was laughing with friends, tossing a basketball. I got out of my car and walked straight up to him. His friends scattered the second they saw me. You come into my yard again, I said, and I'll press charges. You understand me? He tried to act tough, but I saw the fear. You don't scare me, loser. Good. Then you'll enjoy court. I turned and walked away. And when I got home, I filed a restraining order against him. Didn't matter if he was a minor. I had video, reports, police records. It was enough to get it filed. And that's when the bomb dropped. The next week, Daryl sent me something. It was a link to a burner forum. One of those sketchy, invite-only message boards where people shared shady info, doxed enemies, posted revenge ideas. One of the threads? How to deal with HOA troublemakers. It was started by someone with the handle C.R.1971. Clint Raleigh, born 1971. In the thread, he talked about non-compliant neighbors, how to encourage membership, and creative methods to enforce order. He posted photos, old ones, of the burned car, of my house, of Kyle at the bus stop. That broke me. That shattered every piece of self-control I had left. Because now it wasn't just me he was targeting. It was my kid. I printed everything. Posted it on every public board I could find. Facebook groups. Local neighborhood watch forums. Reddit. Nextdoor. No name. No threats. Just the truth, the screenshots, the thread. I let the fire spread. By the end of the week, Clint's face was everywhere. Parents at the schools started whispering. Some stopped sending their kids. The principal called to ask if I was behind the posts. I didn't deny it. And then came the best part. Clint's employer, a real estate firm out of Mount Laurel, put him on leave pending an investigation. Then his wife, Lisa, left with their son. Packed up and took Cooper. Drove to her sister's place in Trenton. Clint's perfect life was cracking. And still, he hadn't come to me. He hadn't said a word. Until the night he finally did. It was 2 a.m. I was in the kitchen, checking locks, when I heard a knock. Not loud. Just slow. Steady. I looked through the peephole. Clint. Alone. Disheveled. Hair messed up. Eyes wild. I opened the door but kept the chain on. You need to stop. he said, his voice shaking. Or what? I lost my job. My family's gone. You're ruining my life. No, I said. You did that the moment you set my car on fire and threatened my son. His face turned red. You think you're the victim? You disrespected everything this neighborhood stood for. I stood up to a bully. That's all I did. He slammed his hand on the doorframe. You don't know who you're messing with. I think I do, I said. A lonely, broke, pathetic man playing king of a cardboard castle. He stared at me, breathing hard. Then he left. Didn't say another word. But I knew something was coming. Something worse. And I was ready for it. I didn't sleep after that night. I sat by the window in the dark, waiting for headlights, movement, anything. Kyle stayed in my room. I kept my phone in one hand and a crowbar in the other. But nothing happened. Not that night. The next day was too quiet. Even the birds felt fake. Clint's house looked like a ghost lived in it, shades drawn, porch light off, mail piling up. And then, that afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Daryl. You're gonna want to sit down again, he said. He'd gotten a call from a contact, someone who used to work with Clint, back when he was doing real estate scams in Pennsylvania. Turns out Clint had a partner back then. Guy named Robert Vane. Another fraudster, but sneakier. Disappeared after the feds caught wind of their little operation. No charges ever stuck. And guess who just showed up in Deptford last week, renting a place 2 blocks away? You guessed it. Robert Vane. That white truck? His. They were working together again. Probably had a plan to scare me off, maybe grab the house for cheap, resell it under one of their shady businesses. But this wasn't 2017 anymore. And I wasn't scared anymore. I waited 3 more days. Then I made my move. I took all the files, all the photos, all the message board screenshots, all the notes. Every single shred of dirt I had, and dropped them off in person at the Deptford police station. I asked for a detective. Sat down, laid it all out. I want this documented, I said. If anything happens to me or my son, I want them at the top of your list. The detective, older guy, took one look at the stack and whistled. You've got more on this guy than most of our open cases. Good. But that wasn't enough. I wanted Clint to feel it. So I called a town meeting. Officially, it was just a community cookout at the park, open to all Maple Hollow residents. I used a fake name on the invite, posted it around the neighborhood, and even hired a local barbecue truck to cater. Nearly the whole neighborhood showed up. And right in the middle of the event, I passed out folders. Each one had a cover page. Who Clint Raleigh really is. Inside was everything. His fake HOA, the threats, the arson, the trespassing, the online hate posts, his old fraud charges. I even included a note at the end. If you supported this man, you supported this behavior. Maybe it's time to ask why. People read. People gasped. Some stormed off. And Clint? He showed up halfway through. He saw the papers. Heard the murmurs. And he snapped. He started screaming. Lies! This is all lies! He tried to grab a folder from a woman's hands. Her husband pushed him back. You ruined everything! Clint shouted at me across the park. This was my street! I didn't say a word. I just watched him fall apart in front of everyone he once controlled. Then the cops showed up. Because someone had called them about a disturbance. They pulled him aside. Asked questions. And when they saw he had a warrant for unpaid fines from his previous fraud case, they arrested him on the spot. Handcuffed. In front of the whole neighborhood. His final words before they put him in the cruiser? This isn't over. You'll regret this. I looked him in the eye. No, Clint. You will. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. From an attorney. It was a civil suit. Clint was suing me for defamation. Even behind bars, he was still trying to drag me down. So I got an attorney. Used up the rest of my savings. Filed a countersuit. Submitted all the evidence, police reports, videos, everything. The judge took one look at Clint's history and threw his case out. My countersuit moved forward. And I won. 6 months later, I was awarded $38,000 in damages. It didn't make up for the car, or the trauma, or what Kyle went through, but it paid for a new fence, a better car, and a college savings account for my son. Clint Raleigh lost everything. His house was seized after his fraud case reopened. His wife filed for divorce. His son changed his last name. Nobody in the neighborhood talks about him anymore. It's like he never existed. But I remember. Because people like Clint, they never just vanish. There's always another one around the corner. Another bully in a polo shirt thinking they can scare their way into control. So I stay ready. I keep the cameras up. I talk to my neighbors now. I know their names. We look out for each other. I made mistakes too. I let my pride get in the way early on. I should have spoken up sooner. I should have protected Kyle better from the start. But I fixed it. And I won. Not just with the court case, but by taking back control. And now? Every time I walk past the burned spot in my driveway where my old car used to sit, I don't get angry. I smile. Because I know what Clint sees when he closes his eyes at night. Me. Standing there. Watching him burn.